7:01 p.m. on April 3rd, 2024. We'll call the meeting to order, and since it's a virtual meeting, the board members can verbally announce that they're present. So Daryl Beardsley present.
Matt Beavers present.
Julie Dreyfus present.
Diana Hook present.
Reginaldo de Veda.
Oh, it's just for the board members.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Rebecca Honeywell present.
Okay, so before we begin with the regular business and turn over the meeting to Matt, does anyone have anything that was not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting, and we can decide whether to amend?
Yes, and if I may ask that the board add 54 Spywood. The owner of the property just announced himself, and maybe someday he will be a board member.
Well,
Aldo Oliveira is here. And because it's a span between this meeting and our next meeting, and this is an interesting building application, I asked the chair if we could add it to the agenda. So that would be my request for the board.
Okay, does anyone have anything else? Okay, hearing no others, is there a motion to add 54 Spywood to the agenda?
So moved. Oh,
Seconded.
seconded. That.
Either one.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none?
Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Okay, I will note that there was a little bit of confusion over the agenda, which was updated on Monday, posted on the website, and then there was some kind of snafu. It disappeared for a bit and then came back on. So there are a few things that maybe we won't have long discussions on because it's hard to know during the period that the right agenda wasn't posted if that's when people checked. So I'd like to just be cautious. We have things we have to discuss tonight that are important to discuss, but maybe some of the discussions won't be quite as protracted, mostly on Farm Road Homes and Washington Street.
That sounds reasonable. All right, do you want me to take it away now?
All right. Yep.
Okay.
In terms of who was here, you know, for other agents' business, well, one, we have the food inspector. Sorry,
Yeah, I was going to start with
that.
that since Tom's here.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay. I was just going to note we don't have any appointments, so we may jump around a bit, but I did see Tom was here, so I thought maybe we could knock out the food permits quickly, and then we'll sort of move on with the other agents' business for people that have been here. So it looks like we have a number this evening. We've got mobile food permits and temporary food permits for a few, and then the new permits for the Fireside Tavern and Cafe. So Tom, any comments you want to make on any of these?
Sure. So many of these temporary permits are obviously for the library fair. So I've been going back and forth with Jean and Hannah from the event, and a lot of these vendors we've worked with previously, so I'm aware that they have all the pertinent certifications that they do need, and would recommend to the board that they be put forth for approval, conditional approval based on a past food inspection, which I probably will conduct the day of the event. I did inspect the Bird's Nest Italian food last year. I may reach out to him to see if I can arrange an inspection prior to the event. If not, I can do it the day of. But and then as far as Fireside Tavern goes, I think myself and Agent Orman are in receipt of preliminarily everything that we need at this point. We're still waiting word on the building inspector. My understanding is he's going to be on site there Saturday. I have a pre-operational inspection scheduled with Laura on the 11th at 5:30. So based on the findings of that, and assuming that it passes the pre-operational inspection, I would recommend approval of those licenses after we determine that it's up to code.
Okay. All right. Any questions from anybody on the board on any of that?
not that I can think of.
Okay, and then I think I saw Mark Williams here. Mark, I don't know if this is what you're here for something else, but anything you want to add?
I'd like to ask a question.
Oh, or Laura, now I see you too.
Hi, how are ya?
Good.
No, we're just looking forward to working with you all, and we're really excited about the cleanup work we've done, and are excited to work with Tom and get going.
Sounds good. I think
Where is the Fireside Tavern?
that's the old Heritage. Rebecca, did you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, your audio is a little odd, so I wasn't sure. All right, so I think I'll maybe take the food trucks first. So do I have a motion to approve temporary food permits for I think I can do them all together. For trolley dogs, everything jalapeno and not, and Bird's Nest Italian street food, conditional to a passing inspection.
So moved.
And compliance with all applicable regulations?
Right, of course, as always.
Can
Okay.
I just say, I think it's really weird for us. We would not be, normally you have inspection and then we give permit. Why are we doing it out of order? I don't understand. Just curious. It doesn't change the amount of time that it takes for us to vote on it. I was just curious why we're doing it out of order. Why don't they just get on the agenda after they have passed the inspection?
I think because the issue here for the mobile vendors is that the inspection is done on site at the day of the event, and so we don't have a meeting, an emergency meeting that morning to approve it. Is that accurate, Tom?
Yes, I mean, typically, if I haven't worked with the vendor before, I do require them to have an past inspection prior to their participation at the event. I am going to reach out to Bird's Nest and see if I can schedule something prior to the event. If not, I will do it the day of. Ideally, it should be inspected prior. Again, many of these vendors I've worked with, for instance, like trolley dogs is pretty low risk item. It's hot dogs. Everything jalapeno or not are shelf stable, I think relishes and things of that nature. The only one that I see on here that would be a higher risk would be the Bird's Nest Italian street food. So again, I'm going to reach out to him. I did work with him last year. He was very cooperative. He has a base of operations in Boylston, permitted base of operations through I think the Boylston Board of Health, and he has his certifications up to date, serve safe and allergen. So I'd like to make arrangements with him to take a look at the truck.
Thanks, Tom. I think overall, in general, we're also at a moment at which we have a gap between meetings. And so we're trying to be respectful of people and not make them miss an event because we don't have a meeting. So I think with that, did I have a motion for approval of the 3 temporary food permits conditional to a past inspection and compliance with all regulations?
You had a motion or waiting for a second?
Second.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Sounds good. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
All right. And then I think similarly for Fireside, I know they're trying to get open and we don't have a meeting for a while. So I think that's reasonable to ask for a motion for approval of the food permits for Fireside Tavern and Fireside Cafe. Those are conditional on one, sort of a passing building inspection, 2, a passing pre-operational inspection by Tom, and then finally conditional to sodium postings.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Oh, seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Matt Beavers, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
All right. Thanks.
What is the, I'm curious, what's the timeline of that transition to the new establishment? When does that hope to open? Sure.
Would you like me to speak to that?
Yes, go ahead, Laura. Yes.
Okay. We're really hoping to do by end of April. We inherited some events that we're trying to make sure that we can execute properly. We chose to, honor some of those contracts, and we're pretty much ready to go. Pending a couple other like equipment deliveries that are coming tomorrow and whatnot. And so, in a perfect world, we're open by April 25th.
Great. Well, good luck. Hope you can get it all done.
Thank you. Cross your fingers.
I would say that we're looking forward to working with the new owners, and I'm sure the board is looking forward to working with the new owners, but I won't be on the board anymore. So hopefully the rest of you have a good time.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. I think I saw that Richard Robinson was here fairly early as well. So I don't know if we want to talk about now I've lost it. There it is. Asians business number 4, for Hopesdale Farm. Is that
Sure.
reasonable?
Yeah, if you want. I spoke with Richard. Unfortunately, we didn't get up to him until later today on this meeting, but Richard has submitted a preliminary building application, and yes, there it is right there. And there was a plan behind it too. He would like, and I don't know if Tom's still here, but he won't. If he is, that's great. If he isn't, not the end of the world. It's a farm stand. They'll be selling produce from the farm, I believe, and no packaged food, but he wanted to submit a preliminary building application so the board would know this building's going up, and that's it there. And he does indicate on the next page what the basement will look like. And then on the next page, it shows the house. Yep, and well, actually a profile that last there. Yep, and then that page shows the proposed location for the farm stand. You'll see to the bottom left the house. He has indicated that this proposed farm stand will be 100 feet from the septic and 50 feet from the well. Those distances would be fine. And it was a preliminary, but I wanted the board to have it on the agenda just so you'd have it for a record. And the next step will be that Richard would be submitting a building application for our review, and he would sign a negative impact form to indicate that this farm stand's not interfering with any part of the septic system or the well. And it is noted too that this is going to be without water and sewer. With that said, and with the distances being met, I'm in agreement with the proposal, and I would recommend the board, you don't need to approve anything more than the concept because it's a preliminary building application, but I wanted to make sure you saw it on the agenda. And Richard is here. I think I saw him somewhere there. Oh, they are. I'm sorry, Richard. So I don't know if the board would like to hear anything from Richard on the next steps and the present proposal.
My main question was about connection to water and sewer, which I thought there wasn't going to be, but thanks for confirming that, Mark. I didn't have other questions. I don't know about anybody else on the board.
Seems straightforward to me.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't sound like there would be any issues for us.
I second what Daryl says.
Oh, you're muted, Mark.
If I can ask a question of Richard. Richard, this is all for farm produce produced at the farm?
Yeah, that's right. We have, for more than a dozen years, sold only what we produce, and that's the intention going forward as well.
Thank you. With that noted, I'm all set at this point. And Richard, you heard me say the next step would be proposing the same application as a building permit request, and that'll come back through our various departments get notified on building permits, including ours. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Any questions for us, Richard?
I think I saw Richard shake his head, but I'm not sure.
Sorry.
It's hard to keep track of all the boxes on the screen. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Richard.
So, thank you, Richard. After that, I'm not sure who is here next.
Well, I don't know either. Go ahead, Darryl. I'm sorry.
There was somebody else who comes to mind. Neil Kessler. for
Okay.
next.
And for Neil's property, which is 43 Page Farm, item number 5 on the agenda.
Oh.
That is an application that came in as a building permit, and you'll see the plans. And I spoke with Richard, I believe it was last week, and explained I'd just like to pass this by the board to make sure they're in agreement. It's for a basement proposal to renovate, to finish the basement. And I just wanted to make sure the board didn't have any issues with this proposal. I personally don't see an issue. I just would say that the room count would have to remain at the, have to get my paperwork too. It's hard to see on the screen, but to the 4 bedrooms. And I believe this would make it the 9th bedroom, 9th room. Ninth room,
sure.
the 9th bedroom.
Mark, if I can interrupt, this is actually the old,
Sure.
this is the
Yeah,
initial floor plan, not the revised one.
Yeah, I wanted to start with the existing condition so we can compare it.
Gotcha.
So you
Yeah,
can
so
see-
I had counted 8 rooms here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, with 4 on the second floor, 4 bedrooms. Did others agree with that on the existing?
I do. Because
agree
to
as
me, the
well.
breakfast area is part of the kitchen.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And the
And the
3
three
seasons room, I
seasons
assume
room-
is,
Yeah.
sorry, the 3 seasons room, I assume is truly a 3 seasons room and not a year-round room with heat and things like that.
Correct.
And I
Um,
did advise Neil that the one thing that would be important to note is if the 3-season porch was ever, if a request ever came in to finish it, the room count would be exceeded at that point if the media playroom is being built. And my main reason for bringing this to the board was to make sure you're seeing the finished basement proposal as 1 room and not 2, with the stairway in the middle.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw that as 1 room. I mean, there is a stairwell in the middle, but it's all 1 open space.
Okay. No, I wasn't against it. I just want to make sure I was okay with the board on this.
Does anybody feel differently?
No, this looks
No,
like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no walls around splitting anything.
no doorways being added or walls, yeah.
There's no L shape
And-
here. It's pretty much the stairwell's just in the center is what occurs here. So
Okay. Yeah, so I
And
think
also
that
a basement room with what looked to be, are the windows just the small basement windows? The up high at the top near the ceiling? Or are they?
Is that a question for me, Daryl?
Yeah, that's a question for you. Neil.
On the front side of the house, yes, but on the back side, it's, I don't know, 50% below grade, so there are bigger windows on the back side.
Which one is the backside, right or left?
Sorry, right.
Okay,
here.
okay. I do like that for safety. All right, thank you.
Okay, and then upstairs, there weren't really major changes, it seems. Bedrooms are staying the same, nothing changing up on the other floor.
Correct. There's nothing changing on the upper floor. And
Okay.
just so you know, this layout is existing. It's not proposed for the
Right.
main level.
Yeah.
What happened was I'd had an original floor plan, I think the realtor sent me, and then the wall between the kitchen and what we call the eating area, because that's where we eat, was sort of opened out, although there is still a refrigerator and a closet there. So just as a informational thing. So I didn't know if that was 1 room or 2, but just wanted to,
That makes sense. I
Give you
think
the
I would probably counter it as 2, but in this case, it doesn't matter because you're allowed 9, and so the basement room is fine.
So
Right. I would
may I
count
ask-
it as 2 also.
yeah, may I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
If we eventually wanted to heat and insulate the 3 seasons room off the back, I know that would obviously put me at 10 rooms. Is there a scenario in which the kitchen and eating area would be either reconsidered as 1 room, or if we made some modifications to, completely demo the wall between the 2? I'm just curious about that. It's not something we're doing now. We're doing the basement and that's it, but I'm just kind of curious process-wise.
So I think if you were to sort of renovate that into 1 large kitchen, even if it had sort of an eat-in type space, then that might be doable depending on how you did it.
Okay.
you know, but I think it probably would involve demolishing that sort of wall where the fridge and the pantry is and really opening it up into one space.
Understood.
I agree with that. And
Yeah.
you might end up using more space in the breakfast nook if you were moving the refrigerator and the pantry. So that
Yep.
might all work out anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know the basement was mentioned as well. If the basement was more than half below grade, I know you said you had the larger rooms in the back, but if it's sub-level, sometimes a deed recording helps out with the situation as well on the room count. But again, you have different options that you could work with, including opening the kitchen and having a kitchen eating area, as was just discussed.
Other questions for us?
So Neil, with that noted, either by tomorrow morning, I just made a note to approve your building application for your proposal for the finished basement. And that's my portion of the building application, and then the building inspector commissioner will handle the rest at that point.
Yes, and I was just going to request, since my application originally got lost in the shuffle for, I've had a contractor waiting almost a month on this application because there was a breakdown. I know that you guys have new software. So Mark, as soon as you can get to it, that's great because Chris is ready to go.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And we apologize. We didn't even know the building platform was being changed. So unfortunately, we weren't being notified of any building applications for almost 2 weeks. So I apologize on behalf of the town for the delay.
No, not a problem at all. I understand. These things happen. Thank you, though.
All right. I think next I saw here for business would be Mr. Oliveira, I think was here next, as I recall.
Yes, and Daryl, is there any chance we can upload the?
I have them in my email. I can pull them up.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Do you want the newest versions, the ones dated April 2nd, Mark?
Yeah, and if you want to do that one, because that truly is what was changed by Mr. Oliveira to try to improve the situation on the room count.
Okay,
in the
here,
bed.
I'll have to pull it up separately because it isn't here, but I'll grab it for us in a second. Right. Rearrange some windows. Are you guys able to see that plan? Hang on, it's just not turning out well for me. There we go. Okay. All right. And so, Mark, can you let us maybe summarize for us what's happening here? Because there's a number of plans here. Oh, you're muted, Mark.
Sorry about that. The original plan that was submitted showed several rooms. First and foremost, the septic system on site is a 4-bedroom septic system. And the original proposal, including the existing house, showed several rooms and almost enough to be a 5-bedroom existing house, not even what's being proposed. So with the 11 rooms, and that would make it a 5-bedroom by definition in the state code. So Reginato and I spoke a little bit about this, excuse me, and in explaining it to him, I said it's not just the bedroom count, it's also the room count. This house had 4 bedrooms on the second floor, as well as a bedroom on the first floor, previous to, I believe, Mr. Oliveira purchasing the house. And so he would like to renovate the house. He has a Title V that's only a year old, so he could renovate more than 50% of the house. In doing so, the basement was one of the areas. The basement, as you can see right here, existing and proposed, is to, originally it showed 2 rooms. It showed a gym. If you're looking at the bottom of the plan, it showed a gym in that area. And he's since removed that and made the area just one large area. And he also removed the full bath and put in a half bath. So that is, but there is a wet bar, a kitchenette, I guess I'll say, wet bar, kitchenette. And that was one of the areas I wanted the board just to look at to make sure that's within reason of the request.
Is that existing? Because that's shown on the existing plan.
Yeah, it's existing.
Okay, so the kitchenette is there, and so essentially the change is that the finished space is expanding into this unfinished storage space.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah.
And are we, sorry, are we okay? I don't remember off the top of my head, but are we okay on room count already?
By the changes being made, it will, if we count the basement as one room and we look at the other rooms, we know at least now we have one in the basement, not two.
Yeah.
So that would help the scenario, the situation of
Is the existing condition compliant? I assumed it was, but I couldn't recall how many, like before making any changes, do we have is the current condition have the right number of rooms is what I'm asking?
It is not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they have too many rooms presently at the house.
Got it. Okay. I couldn't recall. And you said, but I already forgot. How big was the septic?
4 bedrooms.
4 bedroom. Okay. Okay. So that was the issue.
Yeah, the house is already over capacity in respect to room count and bedroom. But what you'll see on the first floor, if you want to go to that next, they're changing the, again, I just looking, if you look at the middle of the bottom of the plan, you'll see bedroom, and you'll see a proposal to make that an office. There is a powder room next to it, I believe a half bath, and that's what their proposal is. The other note was if you go back to the original, just one slide up to the original first floor, presently there's a step-down sunroom with a wall and a chimney between it and a family room. The request is to remove the chimney and put in a half wall and have the step down. And that's one area that I was going to have the board look at to see if that would be considered one room. The step down obviously creates 2 areas of levelness, I guess I'll say, but I'm not for sure how the board would like to look at that.
And then it looks to me like the other things that changing is the kitchen is being substantially expanded and sort of these walls are being removed in between the kitchen and dining. And so this is sort of turning into one long space also.
And that should be labeled kitchen eating area if it's not already. We talked about that too.
Yeah. And then just so I understand, I think the last change was on the upper floor.
Yes.
Which the existing bedrooms are remaining, right? But the space that was previously open before is getting turned into a very large walk-in closet.
That is correct. Yes. So it's the walk-in closet I wanted the board to look at, which is access through the existing bedroom, which presently is just open to the lower level, and to see if that's a reasonable change. That is an additional room, but that wasn't there before. So, but it's part of a suite. It's part of a bedroom suite as a closet. It's being labeled as a closet, but it's so large that I was talking to Mr. Oliver earlier today and said we may need to see how that closet's going to be arranged just to make sure it's not going to be something different. But I told him that's up for discussion tonight with the board.
Can I say something about the master closet, please?
Sure.
Okay. We decided to do this, close the open to below here, because the existing closet is so small for that big master. We decided to close this open space and make a walk-in closet for men and women, but basically we're gonna use just half of this space because the roof is go down, is locked down. So basically we're not gonna use most of this space right here.
Yeah,
So
that was actually
gonna-
that was one of my questions is whether this is a full height ceiling in the whole space. It sounds like it's not. It sounds like it's
No, it's not. Yeah, so we basically is gonna use just half of that room for walk-in closet.
Okay. And so as long as there's not a door from the hallway into that room and you have to go through the bedroom, that's when we'll look at it as a master suite.
Yeah, it's gonna be a door here to access the walk-in closet. And this wall is gonna be closed. Before it's just railings and the open space right there.
Yeah, so here we see it. So previously it was a railing and this is open to the living room, and now you're going to put a new ceiling in the living room, a new wall here.
Yes.
And this will be accessible through the master. I think my only concern here was this was so big, it felt like it was maybe tempting to somehow get turned back into a bedroom, but I agree, sort of the only access through the master's key. And then if it really is about half this size because of the sloping ceiling, which I think we don't have elevations enough to tell that. But that's fine. I mean, I think that makes sense to me.
And that would keep the room count back to, on the second floor, just to the 4 bedrooms and bedrooms with closets. So,
Yeah.
and
Okay,
maybe
So then
it-
this floor is the question, I think.
Yeah, now we're back to the
Yeah.
first floor with the that family room slash sunroom. Excuse me.
Well, right here on the family room, the idea is to remove the chimney so we can have a big room to see to the backyard. And we're gonna put a slide door here so we can see the pool area. And on these 2 steps right here, we're gonna create like a 4 foot, yes, right here on the left
Yeah,
side.
right here. This
We're
is
gonna build like
half
a
wall.
bookcase or some like a built-in cabinet for 4 foot. So that's the idea, and leave all this a big room, big concept area.
Mm.
And so I
If
think to,
think about how it compares to other floor plans we've looked at, I think we would view that as a separate kind of a space, even though there's flow, but there's flow between functional areas and lots of homes. So it gets a little difficult to call that one room with that kind of structural divide.
And also, this is a
Okay.
big cathedral ceiling, all the way down from the beginning of the family room to the end of called sunroom. It's all one big ceiling, cathedral ceiling, all the way down. So when we remove the chimney, it's gonna be just one big space and a big cathedral ceiling from here to the end. So to make a wall here to separate it is gonna be very tough.
yeah, so I think, well, I think we don't want, I think less walls is better. I think the issue is more, do we count this as one space or two? And then I think similarly, the kitchen is one space or two. The kitchen seems a little bit easier to me. It's a large kitchen with an eat-in area now. I mean, I think the other thing I think to consider here is that in the end, this is, you know, the changes that are being made are improving the existing condition, I think, to some degree. Like we are moving closer to being in compliance with the changes being made. I might be a little more stringent if we were talking about adding something on, but I do get the sense here the homeowner is trying to sort of bring things back to where they should be.
That's the idea.
Yeah, and Mr. Oliveira is the homeowner or the owner at this present time. Correct.
So are you
correct,
thinking
Reginaldo?
that,
Yes.
Sorry, Dan.
are you thinking that, okay, we have 4 rooms on the second floor, and right now 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5, which would be 9,
Mm-hmm.
and then
And then one in the
May
basement.
still reads, and then 1 in the basement, 10, which is too many,
Mm-hmm.
and speed restricting the basement, although is that a walkout?
Yeah, is this area right here a walkout? It looks
Yeah,
like.
it is a slide door go to the pool area.
Okay.
That's the idea, to put half a bathroom. When the people enjoy the pool, they don't need to go upstairs. They can use this half bathroom here.
Mm-hmm.
Reginaldo, what type of windows do you have in the basement itself? Are they cellar windows or are they larger than those?
Well, it's large. Right here we have in the kitchen area, the kitchenette area, we have a big window right here. And the slide door. And the rest is all regular small basement windows.
Let's see. Okay.
So I think the 2 ways this goes is deed recording the basement, which is tough with a walkout, or if we decide this is a single room.
For me to get to a single room, I might want no physical separation.
So no
other
half
than
wall.
just down or no built-in, right? There are other ways maybe to achieve it.
I can put the railings in
Temporary
there
furniture, but
to save if you guys request.
So
Instead
like
of
like an open
walls.
railing rather than a built-in.
Yes, I can do that because right here we have two steps, and so we can put a railings right there, and it's gonna be all open. No, we cannot do a built-in.
Just one other question while we're thinking about that. I know earlier I asked you, Reginato, if
Yep.
the second floor closet that's being added, are there windows in that room?
No, there's no windows in that room.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the
Okay.
open railing certainly improves it for me over the built-ins in the half wall. I agree, Daryl, that it still feels like a little bit of a stretch, but I think that they're really working to try to get this as close as they can get it into compliance.
Yeah,
right,
that's the
I
idea.
agree. But I think of, say this wasn't quite as spacious a home, that we would look at that kind of L as a kitchen, dining room, living room setup in other cases. So that's what I'm struggling with at the moment.
Another question might be, could an exterior wall be put at the point where the family room and sunroom meet each other, so and unheat the sunroom? I mean, I know that's asking for a lot, but that could be another possibility to keep the family room just as one room and the sunroom just as an unheated sunroom with an exterior wall between the two. I mean, I know that's creating a lot of work, but it's another opportunity.
Is the sunroom currently heated?
It is existing heating there, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the kitchen here, we removed the wall to have like a idea for open concept to be a big area. So like a breakfast area with the kitchen all open. And this side right here, we have a little L island open to the whole family room to create a big space, because this family room is beautiful with a cathedral ceiling. If you put a wall here to separate the family room and this space right here, it's gonna knock everything down. And the beauty of this house and the idea the reason I buy that is because the big ceilings, the high ceilings, and so
Yeah, I mean I agree. I think that makes it trickier for an exterior wall here because you've got this sort of continuous ceiling and
yeah.
So Mark, is this system, whatever's in there, is it a post 95 that can be added to? And
It's pre-95, unfortunately.
Oh.
So, yeah, no, but it did pass a Title V inspection last year.
Yeah, the other reason I bought this house, actually I live in Sherborn too. I work with construction. The reason I buy this house is because it's passing the Title V. Otherwise, I'm not gonna purchase this house because it's so expensive to do a new septic system. And this house is gonna turn in a great, beautiful house for the neighborhood. So
I mean, I think I'm sort of inclined to either find a way to make that one room. I mean, that's sort of, I think, the best path forward. I hate to make somebody, it was an existing condition that was out of compliance. They're trying to get it back in compliance. I hate to make somebody like demolish something in order to get there. That doesn't feel reasonable. But I agree, sort of like really fully opening that space for the family room would make it a little bit easier for me.
All right. So we're not trying to design it for you. You'll need to pick
I really
something
appreciate you
at some
guys
point, but
having me and try to help me. I appreciate that.
what if the two steps ran all the way across? And so the handrails were on the
I can do
I
that
don't know.
too.
Then it would really, me, that
I
would
would
make
believe it or not, I
one
was thinking
room.
this idea before to put the two step all the way down here.
All the way over to here.
Yes, yeah, I can
I
do
mean,
that.
I think that would make it more clearly one single room.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I
That would
think
make
that
it
would look,
easy for me.
for me too. That would look nice.
Yeah, the full across steps, I think, is the best idea we've had so far.
all right. I
Okay.
can ask my architect to make that change, and I can send you guys a new prints tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right next step.
All right.
Okay, so then Mark, the plans come in with that? I think
Yep.
you've got the support of the board.
That sounds good. And one other thing that is secondary to all this, and that again, those steps going completely across the room is the first step. And then once you get to that point, there will be a requirement that the half bath has a ejector pump that passes the Title V requirements, and we can go over that when we go over the finalizing of the plans.
Okay.
It's something that we just the state Department of Environmental Protection requires that your ejector pump doesn't pump too forcefully to the septic tank. It could destroy the septic system. And they do make pumps that are not as forceful as others. And I'll go over that with you when we finalize the building application.
Okay.
This was the big part, getting through this. The other part can be done with engineering and so forth.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for us?
No, I really appreciate you guys having me for this meeting, and thank you very much. And have a good night for all.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
And thank you for working with us on that too.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
Night. At this point, I'm losing track of who is here, so I might just start going in order if that's acceptable. Mark, do you want to just start working your way through your business, maybe?
Yes, so we
Mason Hill.
Mason Hill Road, we have a new septic system being proposed. It's a new lot. The lot we found out has been approved by the planning board and has an A&R, action not required. They soil tested this 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago now, and they did meet the requirements. It's just the owner has been holding off for a little bit, and at this point, excuse me, I reviewed the septic plans. There were a couple minor issues that had to be done, taken care of. In fact, you'll see on the plan you have up right now, the notes about top center next to the locus plan indicates the notes that were required. So those have now been added by Rob Truax. Unfortunately, he can't be here. He's away. So with that said, I told him I would present to the board and we'll go from there. But I'm ready to recommend approval to the Board of Health. And that's for the well and the septic system.
All right. No questions for me. Anyone else?
I don't think so. If it meets all the requirements, then
Yeah.
great.
Okay. So do I have a motion do we need conditions we need here? Garbage grinder restriction?
Oh, thank you. Yes. In fact, I had that on the sidebar of the plan.
It's here. No garbage grinder allowed, I think.
So that is the condition. It was designed without a garbage grinder, so it will require a deed recording for the garbage grinder prior to the release of the plans.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the plans conditional to a garbage grinder deed restriction?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Matt Beaver's aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
All right. Okay. So I think next on your list was 112 North Main. So these are the
Yes.
cesspools we've been awaiting on replacement. Where do we stand on those?
We are we are moving in, I should say the homeowner is moving in the good direction. Those are the soil test application. That is part of the soil test application submitted by McIntyre Engineering. We are planning to schedule it. Conservation approved this last week. And so the next step now is to set up the testing date. And I have a call in to Dan. Dan called us, we called him. Unfortunately, today was so busy, I didn't have a chance to get to him later today, but this will be scheduled very soon. And it's very close to the actual date the board had set to have a soil test application in by March 15th. It's off a little bit, but we've been working with the applicant and he's working with us, and I don't see an issue with that because we're moving forward. And so I'm just updating the board that I believe satisfactory compliance is being made on this property. And the next step will be to have the septic system designed after the soil testing and installed by the end of the summer.
Let's
No, I think
do
this is-
some
Go ahead.
checking about just assuring that there's no breakout actively going on, that sort of thing.
No, I thank you for bringing that up, Daryl. I did go out to the site about 2 weeks ago. We received a complaint, and I went out to the site. There's no breakout. I spoke to the abutter because the complaint said the abutter that their property had sewage onto their property, and the abutter said, "No, I've never seen sewage on my property." The owner was very honest. He said his daughter did, I guess, move to the house for a little bit of time in February, I believe, and there was overuse of water. So he said there was a minor breakout. He immediately had the system maintained and pumped. And when I went out there 2 weeks ago, I couldn't see any signs of breakout. There are 2 cesspools on the property for each dwelling unit that's on this property. There's a 110 North Main, the main house, and I think the main house is 112 North Main, and the cottage is 112, and they both have their own cesspools.
So it feels like we're making good progress.
Very good. Yeah.
I think probably reasonable to just wait until we've got a plan before us for the next check-in.
Yes, that's correct. And the homeowner is working with us, so all good signs. So we appreciate the homeowner working with us as well.
All right.
It was
Any other
just
questions? Go ahead.
It was just an update, just so the board
Yeah.
knows.
Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Next was the irrigation well at 43 Kendall Avenue.
Yes, and I don't know, can't see for sure if the applicant for the owners of that property is here. But we did receive this email, as you can see, and the request, first of all, this is for 43, it was just noted, 43 Kendall Ave is residential units, and they are on Framingham Town Water. But at the same time, there's really limited vegetation on the property. And even though they might be on Framingham Town Water, there's still the issue of there's other people in the area that depend on their water supply, private water supply with their wells. So there's still the concern of having an irrigation well on a property. So I told the applicant, Alec Shangris, he's a professional engineer, that we would review it tonight. I don't know if he's here. He did inquire. But I wanted the board to look at this to see if there's any needs or discussion in respect to this, or if it's even suitable, considering other people in the area depend on their private wells. Alec, are you here?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I don't think he is. And
I
we
think
did
that-
it on the agenda, so he knew it was on tonight's agenda, but I don't see him.
The question here for me is that, we have typically allowed only one well per property. And in this case, there is no well on the property.
I know, correct.
And so that's what makes it a little bit tricky. I don't know what others think. I mean, we typically don't allow irrigation wells, but typically that's because there is already an existing, potable water well, and we don't allow a second. I don't
And
know
there
what
are,
others feel.
as noted, there's surrounding properties near this property that have their own private wells.
Right.
But
I guess in the past, because this would be the only well on this property, we have, that would be we would not be prohibiting someone from having a well just because their neighbor has a well if it's, there's only one. So it's really just the use here that's the issue.
That is correct.
Right. I wonder whether, because this apartment building has been, or condominium building has been there for, I don't know, 15 or so years. It's been a
15 to
while.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, so whether the recent drought period is what has inspired them to want to suddenly do irrigation, because I don't think the outside space gets a lot of use. It is senior housing, so I don't think there's a lot of soccer playing going on. I could be wrong, but anyway, if it was inspired by the drought, that's not the reason we want irrigation to be going on. So I'm assuming that the vegetation did fine for the other decade plus.
Oh, I guess that is a question I would have if they're planning to expand the garden, the vegetation that they have cultivated around the building.
And they do have a water supply too, so that's part of it. And I guess for irrigation wells, we do have a provision in our regulation that says we need some explanation of why the irrigation is needed. Certainly for agriculture would be one reason. Maybe they're planting community gardens. Maybe, I mean, I'm not sure if they're limited on what they're getting from Framingham.
Well, there would certainly be a cost.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Like
Well-
that's what I wonder, is if they don't want to sort of pay for the excess, or they don't have a way to sort of pay for the. Since
Right,
it's
except installing a well currently is running around $25,000.
right. I just wonder
So-
if it's an issue of they're individually metered for the separate units there, and they don't have a way to sort of divvy off from Framingham. I mean, I think the answer is we need more explanation of why this is happening, right?
Yeah.
I was
Like-
hoping,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was hoping the professional engineer would be here because those are excellent questions. I will get back to him and let him know what the board's considerations are. The other thing I was hoping to ask him too, and I know we've discussed this at least one other situation, is the consideration of rainwater being stored in underground tanks. So, that's another possibility. I believe it was on North Main Street that someone, he may even be in the audience tonight, was considering that kind of scenario, so that way you're not depending on a private well, but as we are getting all this rain tonight, you're getting to store water in large tanks below
Yeah.
grade and use that as needed.
And they
Just
don't
a-
even have to be below grade, which is less expensive if they're
That's
willing to
correct.
just have above ground tanks.
Yes.
That's a great idea, Mark. That might help. And I would also imagine that if one wanted to divert something for, let's say they start a community garden area, and that can periodically need watering, is installing a spigot for that should be far less expensive than putting in a well. And then if one multiplies out what the cost is for water from MWRA, I would imagine that you could go for years before you use up, what it costs to put it in. So, and just be curious as to, right.
So it sounds like overall it's
Yeah.
not straightforward. It's not strictly prohibited, but we would prefer to look at alternatives, and we'd like to hear from the applicant sort of exactly what the motivations and use pattern is here.
Mhm.
I'll respond back to the engineer, and if he would like to meet with the board, I'll invite him to our next meeting.
All right. We did Mill Street, we did Page Farm, so 193 Forest is, I think, the last
Yes,
agent's business.
and we do have plans for that. And I don't know if the builder's here, but I told him we would be reviewing it tonight. The builders are representing the homeowner. And I did explain the concerns were another property where the present house exceeds the septic system capacity. So but with a septic system that was built after 1995, so there's possibilities. They already went forward and had a septic plan designed by GLM Engineering, showing septic tank pump chamber where they're proposing a sports barn as well as a cabana. Now, I have no information yet on the cabana, but if there's a finished room in there, their room count would be, they're planning 3 rooms for the sports barn and a loft.
Which is, so just to orient me, Mark, the sports barn is this thing over here?
That is, yeah, I'm pointing on my, yes, that's correct.
That's
Yes.
okay. And then the cabana is this,
Yes.
which at the very least looks like it has a 3/4 bath in it. So
Yeah, that's why I figured there's got to be a finished
Yeah.
room. Yes, and so he didn't go too far with that request of what that's going to be. It's not even on the building application yet, but the building commissioner, the previous one, presently still acting as our building commissioner, even advised them that this may be more than what the present septic system can handle. Now, there is a loft, as you can see on this set of plans here, that I'm not for sure if we would call that a room. If so, that could be a 4th room. And you'll see, that whatever the case is, the first and foremost issue is bringing the system up to compliance or changing the room count within the existing house. There's too many rooms within the existing house. It's a 6-bedroom septic system. And I believe they have 14 rooms in the house. So there's some plans as you go through that you'll see, but if you want to stay with the sports barn first, that's the 1st floor, I believe. Again, unfortunately, my screen is very small on this computer I have, but I believe you'll see the floor plan on the 1st floor as well.
So this is the sports barn plan, which looks like it's sort of an open barn space and then a separate bar space, and then a second loft with another bar.
Correct.
Hard to know how to count those as rooms, but at least a couple.
Yes.
I see 3 rooms because that's a
1,
kitchen,
2, 3,
essentially.
yeah.
And
Yep.
then an open room in the loft. Although it's on the 2nd floor, I wouldn't call it a bedroom because it
Right.
doesn't offer the privacy, and it's on that floor. There's not a bathroom, so that would just be fine as simply a room.
And
So
I,
probably at 3 rooms here in the barn. Yes.
yes, that's the way I
1,
counted
2,
them.
3.
I have my notes right here. And so what I did is the 3 rooms I noted in the sports barn. Well, I had a question on the 2nd floor. So, and then in the present house, they have 3 rooms in the basement and a full bath. And the full bath is in the hallway, thankfully. So, but that room count, the present house exceeds the room count as well. So they have 6 rooms, they have 14 rooms in the present house. 6 rooms on the 1st floor, 5 rooms on the 2nd floor, and the basement room is 3. So, it comes up to 14 rooms, and they can only have on a 6-bedroom, 13 rooms. So they are exceeding by 1, and it's all on how you look at the basement room too. And then they want to add another 3 to 4 rooms. So the builder was very understanding. He said, "No, I understand." He says that whatever the case may be, he'll relay it to his client. And I said, there is an opportunity to reconsider upgrading the septic system for the needed rooms that you wish to have, or the proposed rooms, and trying to make the house compliant. So he understood, but I told him he wanted to make sure it was reviewed by the board. I don't believe he's here either tonight, but that's the status at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I think that they are, sounds like already over, and then adding 3 and presumably with the cabana 4 rooms. So they're gonna need a bigger septic or a whole different plan.
Yes, yeah, and they may have to change the tank at the house as well if they're going up to a 7-bedroom house. That would be a 2,100 gallon tank, which would have to be upgraded to a 2,500 gallon tank. And then they're proposing, there's a plan somewhere where they show the septic tank outside from the sports barn being proposed, that is, as well as a pump chamber. But we're not even at that point. I think the point right now is to determine how they can upgrade the present leaching field, the soil absorption system, if it's possible.
So Mark, if they didn't want to pull out the current tank and replace it with a larger tank, could they put another tank in series with the one that's there?
They
Get up to the
could,
gas
but
station?
it could, in all respects, cause an issue with Title V, the state code, in respect to the two compartments. One compartment's supposed to be
Oh,
one
yeah,
third of the
okay.
first compartment, so it gets tricky.
Mm,
But
yeah.
but again, there's some opportunities there, and
Mm.
we'll see where the engineer would, if they can add on, that have to be engineered by an engineer or sanitarian.
Yeah, it almost need to be not have a compartment in it in the first
Yes.
tank.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct, because then you'd get your 2/3, 1/3. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where we stand, and we'll see where they want to go. But I will have to deny this building permit as it exists. But I wanted, out of courtesy to the applicant, to share it with the Board of Health first, and I'll state my reasons for the Board of Health denial.
Yeah. Seems straightforward.
Yep.
All right. Okay. I think that finishes agent's business. So let's move over to chair's business. And again, we'll just start at the top with discussion of manure management. Daryl, do you want to chat about this?
Sure. Mark and I have been talking about this for a few weeks. We received an anonymous complaint a couple of weeks ago. Is this the second one that came in, or the first one?
I think I believe it's the second one,
Oh,
Daryl.
this is the second one. This is the
Yes.
second, yes.
Mm.
Okay, so there was one that came in earlier, but I think on maybe the same day as our last meeting, and we didn't have a chance to investigate the validity of the issues. So that's what Mark and I had chatted about, and Mark reached out to Kim Morrow and had discussions with her, since she does go to the properties to visit them. And we weren't even sure what the properties were from the first complaint. So this one's also anonymous. In any case, discussions have been going on. Mark, you could fill in on that.
Sure.
And I guess you could also update on one of the property owners came into the office as well.
Sure. So I did speak with Kim Morrow on March 28th, last, I believe it was, and explain, the concerns and how this would be a great team effort, that being a team of animal inspector, conservation commission agent, as well as myself, going on properties where Kim has to go on these properties once a year for her barn inspections. And she understood, and she said that wouldn't be a bad idea at all. And we talked about the fact that the main purpose would be to educate anyone that's a keeper of animals to understand the process for manure management and the need to mix it in with a drier material to prevent odors and so forth. And that would be our end of it. And obviously not to let it get too large of a pile, so that it's managed and brought to a place to properly spread. And we even talked about an idea that Darryl brought up with looking at the opportunity to use this material to help vegetate grass fields as well as other gardens and so forth. So it went well, and she wasn't in disagreement. She said she would try to be here tonight, but I don't know if she's here. And then with the conservation end of it, that's more location, just to make sure that they're not locating this within buffer zones or in any area that is prohibited from storage. So, and I explained to Kim that there are bylaws on manure management, and that we could share that information with the various people out in Sherborn that are keepers of animals. So that's the effort that we're hoping to work together on. Oh, Darryl, I'm sorry. Can you all hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm with the storm, I didn't know. The other thing too is Darryl just noted, one of the people on Everett Road that is a keeper of animals came into our office today and was very very good about working with us. She said, "I want to do what I need to do," and I explained to her, well, one thing she's already doing is she is working with a farmer and an excavator. He does both to manage removing the manure when it gets to be too much. But thankfully, the conservation administrative assistant was in the office at the same time. And she told the person that's the keeper of the animals was informed that the location of where she's planning to put a pad for the manure will need to go through the conservation agent and the Conservation Commission. So that is presently being worked on, but she was very interested in making sure she was in compliance. So that was a very good meeting in my view. And it was good that she wanted to work with us, and we'll go forward with that. But she may have been she is one of the people that was within that complaint that was received. So I'll leave it at that at this point, but it's being brought to the board to see if there's any other suggestions and so forth. And I was hoping Kim would be here, but she's not able to be here, I guess.
And also to let whoever the neighbors might be, that this is being looked at and worked on, and trying to be collaborative and problem solving for everyone.
I agree.
I mean, it sounds like overall it's going well, right? Like we're all working together and everyone's interested in fixing any issues that exist, and
yeah,
it'll just continue to work that way.
Yeah, no, it's sounding good. The location of the manure pile and the size can really make a huge difference with respect to flies and smell and so forth.
That is correct. Now, I did go down during winter months and did cursory. I just can't walk onto someone's property without permission, and did not see and or not see. I didn't smell any odors, and I stopped at both properties of concern. But at the same time, you would need to really go on the property to see if there's any issues right at the location of the storage. So that I'm hoping will be our next step, and that Kim will be able to work with the keepers of the animals to allow us to enter. But as I said, one of the two properties on Everett Street, she is working with us, and the other property owner has responded that she's downsizing her farm, which was noted in the complaint notice, and that there was the concern that when she goes to downsize that things are done properly. But I really truly believe they want to work with us. They have to live there as well. So I don't think I think we'll see compliance. If there is non-compliance, we'll go from there.
Oh. Good. Sounds overall reasonably positive.
Yep. And so the board knows, if you search our website, there is a little guide from the Conservation Commission, like a handout that talks about starting a project with the commission, the do's and don'ts, and it goes on to talk about various issues about buffer zones and manure management. So, those are the guides I was explaining to Kim that would be helpful when she does her inspections, if she could hand those out. And that's my report at this point.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
You're very welcome.
If nothing else on that, we can move on to the opioid resources.
Yeah.
Abatement resources, I should better say. Oh, we do have a question here from Mr. Dowse.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jonathan. You're on mute. I don't know if you're talking.
You good? You good?
Hi, actually, it's Pam.
Oh, hey. Go ahead.
We're just listening together. I just want to say that most farmers know these rules and regulations, that it would be more beneficial for the board to educate the neighbors. I don't know specifically about the other farm, but the one farm that's downsizing knows the rules, knows the laws, and are being very compliant. So, and they're on the Agricultural Commission. So if you're going to send an anonymous letter and not talk to the farmer themselves, there's really no basis in that. It's just wasting everybody's time. Get educated, read the rules yourself, and, tell the neighbors to go talk to the farmer. Tell the neighbors where to go find those regulations. If the farmers aren't in compliance, you would already know about it. That's all I have to say.
Well, since we didn't know who sent in the complaint. That's why we're discussing it here, just so people know, like, how is it handled and who deals with that and what kind of issues come up. And again, Mark and Conservation have not been to the properties to even know if there is an issue. So it is a work in progress right now. So we appreciate that. And that's why we didn't add it to the last meeting, because we had zero.
Laura Robbins, I see your actual physical hand up. You're also on mute.
Hi guys, how are you? 1 second. I don't know what that's from. Apologies. So I heard through the grapevine that my farm was being named in the anonymous letter, and it's fascinating to me that no one has ever approached me or my neighbor about this. And I'm on the Agricultural Commission. I'm also on the board of the Massachusetts Farm Bureau. And we as farmers care so deeply about the land and about management of manure and about water, because if we don't care deeply about it, our animals do not thrive. We have dealt with, since I started this farm, many, many, many anonymous complaints based on the overarching concern stemming from property value. And a lot of feedback I've been getting through the grapevine is there is a lot of concern that farms in town are lowering other neighbors' property value. And we have heard through other neighbors in this anonymous group of people, who, which I do know who it is, that the concern is that they can't stop us from farming. And so what they're going to do is continue to write anonymous letters, because the ultimate concern is not actually the land, it's their property value. And it feels a little much, because this has been, I've talked with Kim for years. I care the most about land. I care the most about animals. And yes, I am downsizing because I did invest deeply in the town. But my first and foremost concern is the health of my land that I have invested in. And so if there was something wrong, or if I was doing something wrong, I would be the first to solve the problem. And I do wish to work collaboratively with you all. And my neighbor and I are sort of up in arms, because it feels very personal now, because this keeps happening. And if they would not become anonymous anymore and we could talk directly, I'm sure we could get to a place where you wouldn't have to keep responding to these letters. And if there is something that we could do, who's to say I'm not going to have more animals in the future? Yeah, right now I'm not operating as a commercial farm because I did buy, this tavern, but I could in the future, and I will do it properly, and will continue to do it properly under the compliance of right to farm laws and everything in Massachusetts. And I want to continue to work safely and properly with everyone.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do know on my time on the board, this has come up in the past, and we have addressed it before, and we have never found issues. And so I hope this does not become a nuisance, but I will also agree, if we have received anonymous concerns about other topics as well, and sort of like not just this, and sort of the only way we have to address it is to talk about it in a meeting, since we don't have an individual we can talk to. So I suspect that there will be no issues here, and I hope that this doesn't become a recurrent thing, because you're right. If there are in fact nothing going on, then we shouldn't have to do it over and over again.
I'd like to ask a question, since there are a few farmers on right now. And that is what Mark brought up earlier. That's been something that's been on my mind for a while, is whether it would actually help the farmers in town out if they didn't have to transport manure far. And that goes back to the maybe using it, beneficial reuse of the manure for enriching the soils at Laurel Fields, as a town, we're trying to improve that playing field surface. So is that the kind of thing that if the town could organize and if it, whatever the logistics, et cetera, would that be helpful?
Yeah, Douse, go ahead.
Yeah, John Douse this
But
time.
now John Douse. So your camera's not on. You just got to keep me guessing.
Yep. Well, she's prettier than I am anyway, so I'm saving you. Some of the issues that you deal with, the use of the manures on the field, especially the vegetables. I participate in, good farming practices. And, I have horses here on the farm. I have compost piles in the backfield. And there are certain things that you need to do prior to just applying raw manure to the fields. You're looking for, cross-contamination of your crops. So generally, I try to compost my piles for 3 years. I have three different piles that I rotate through to give me a 3-year thing. I try to spread it early in the winter so that the sun has a chance to kind of cook it, then I put it into the soils. But putting raw manure directly onto the fields is not a good thing, and it's not it's not proper management of your crops and keeping a safe produce in your fields.
I agree with you.
There is health issues. What's that?
And breakdown. I agree with you that it needs years to, I don't know what the word would be, mature or, deal with the various bacteria, et cetera, that you don't want in there. So, and that's part of the feasibility. I don't know exactly how that might play out. I wanted to see if there would be an interest. And I guess for you, it's a little different because you have animals and you're growing food. I was thinking maybe more for people who have horses or goats or whatever else, but are not also farming.
So I think what you're asking, Daryl, is if the town were to develop a sort of local way for those who needed to dispose of their manure in such a way that we would manage and reuse it, would that be a benefit?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
In my operation, I have my own compost operations going on that I do mix into my vegetable fields. I also work with MDAR, Mass Department of Ag Resources, and they kind of oversee the different practices that we have going on here. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have a closed cycle there.
Yep.
All right. So Laura, if you think about it, or as part of your being on the Agricultural Commission, if there's any insight into that you come up with, that'd be just nice to know whether we could help people out.
Yeah, I do think it's a great conversation where we, as the Agricultural Commission, and I can't speak for everyone, but I do know that we're trying to form greater bonds with other town groups. And I think that there's a great way for us to sort of bridge a gap here with education. And there's a whole bunch of different ways where, like, for example, like I was, using manure on other rented fields. It's really great for, I do a lot of like pasture rotation. So like the manure itself and the high nitrogen actually helps make the fields I use get better. I do think that there's a lot of other ways that we can educate people, help forward resources, help, educate about how to use manure. And I do think that one of our Agricultural Commission members just started a compost company. So I can figure out how to get him more looped into that as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Like I said, hopefully when we get these things, we can turn them into something positive for everyone and not make them be a nuisance. All right. If no further questions, we will talk about opioid abatement. I think there was a document here, but now I can't find it.
Yeah, I think it's starts
Here we go.
with C. Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to bring this up. We've talked about the opioid funds that the town has, and the number has gone up considerably. Julie, I almost want to say, was it 60,000 roughly over some number of years?
I think Jeremy suggested it was 60, but I don't remember the time period of which that's dispersed.
Yeah. Okay, so funds have been coming in. The last number I had heard from him was something like 17,000. So there's, I guess, more and more. And the town would like the Board of Health to help figure out what to do with these funds. And I think, as we talked about before, there are lots of programs and resources, educational materials for us on options for what one can do. We might be able to work on something through the shared services agreement with the Charles River Health District. We have already been talking with Dover about working with them and working with the schools. So we have ways to get the money out and I'm sure put to good use. And it doesn't only have to be for opioids, but it's supposed to be related to substance abuse. And there's some other rules about how it gets used. In any case, I just received this from Needham because Needham is one of the towns in the shared services program that we're in. And in case anybody was interested, certainly feel free to go or to join on the remote.
This is an in-person meeting, Daryl?
It is in person, but I believe elsewhere it does talk about it being a hybrid meeting. And if not, they're definitely going to be recording it. But I think it has a hybrid option somewhere else. You go to their town website. Don't hold me to that, though.
I definitely like the idea of working within the other communities in the sort of shared services agreement. And I do feel like we probably could be more effective working together with all of our funds than each of us being potentially duplicative.
Yeah. So that's it.
All right. Do you want to comment briefly, Daryl, on Farm Road and Washington Street?
Yeah.
We had an agenda issue.
Right. This and the Washington Street and the Board of Health Administrator had not been temporarily off of the agenda for some number of hours. So Farm Road, we've submitted comments. There's still some things being debated. And there has been an alternative plan proposed. If people haven't seen that, you could take a look at the land development page and look for Farm Road Homes. And I can't recall what it was called off the top of my head, but there's an potential alternative plan that would be for an apartment building rather than for the individual homes. That would have roughly the same number of bedrooms as the homes in totality. So doesn't change. The septic is probably the thing that doesn't change. And just about everything else does.
It would probably then presumably mean a public water supply.
Yes, absolutely.
Rebecca, did you have a comment? Oh, I lost Rebecca.
No, she's on mute.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry. Just wanted to know when, just the last time we were looking for somebody, it was sort of discussed at the open meeting, at the opening of the administrator, and I was just wondering why that's not coming before the open meeting.
I'm not sure what you're asking, Rebecca.
We're on Farm Road Homes right now. We'll get
I know,
to the
but
other
I want to know if we were going to go. You very quickly skimmed over that subject, and I just want to know.
No,
but are we going to talk about it later?
Yet. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I heard you mention it. I'm sorry if I misheard you.
All right,
Okay, I
any
don't
other
have
comment on
anything
Farm
on
Road Homes?
Farm Road, not for me.
Okay. Not from me.
Okay. Washington Street Homes, Mark can update us on, what's happening. There's still information to be gathered from there. The one thing that I know the applicant is anxious to hear is about the approval of the provisional use. And I don't think that's in the documents that you had.
No,
but I
no,
could
it was not.
share. Okay. I don't know if people recall looking at that in the past meeting, or I could bring it up.
If you have it, I would have to search. If you have it handy, I'm happy to stop
I
sharing.
do have it handy.
Okay, then
I
you
think
go
I
ahead.
have my marked up version. All right, so here is the modified provisional use approval. Are you seeing this okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the question was about the status. At one point, they had not yet approved the engineered systems, which is more than one of these units that are listed here, being strung together. So they have approved the star 9.0, which would be 2 star 4.5s in series. But they have not yet approved the star 13.5, but they have approved the 9.0. An engineered system. And I think basically the request was whether the board agrees that it's been approved. So it has been approved. It's provisional approval. It is not general use approval, which was mentioned at the last ZBA hearing on Washington Street, or maybe two hearings ago on Washington Street. They mentioned that it had general use approval, which it does not. So at some point, there are other requirements associated with this, which is different from what we see for other IA technologies. And that's because it has a provisional use, which means it's going to have different monitoring requirements, maintenance requirements, performance requirements over the long term. And if they don't meet those, that the owner of the system in the future would have to replace the system with something that could be in compliance. So it's an extra layer. But in any case, it is approved, in my opinion, from both communications with Mass DEP. They have confirmed that the 9.0 has been approved, and that's what they're proposing to use at Washington Street. It is limited to 9,000 gallons a day or less. And I think that's kind of the main thing. So I'd just like to be able to reply back to the applicant on behalf of the board as to whether we accept that it has been approved by DEP with lots of conditions.
That's how I read it, Daryl, was the 9.0. The two 4.5 strung together is approved for provisional use. I haven't looked through the Washington Street to see in terms of the oversight and operation how that's been outlaid, but also what is the backup system that is proposed. I know that is a very tight site. And the same goes for Farm Road. Sorry, I'm having issues with my voice tonight. Where I don't believe we have, at least I have not seen, and if somebody else has caught this, please, please highlight it. I have not seen what the backup system would be in the event that the system does not perform as proposed. There has to be a system that can be installed in place that would still meet the same, that would meet Title V. And I don't know what that is at this point for either proposals.
Right, and there's also an issue that the approving authority, which ordinarily would be the Board of Health, but for this project would be the ZBA, has the discretion of either accepting this IA technology or not, and or putting other requirements on. So here's another part of the confirmation. We had been communicating with Mass DP to understand about the, I think it said 13 here, but 13.5 is what we're trying to find out about in particular, but now both the systems. And so they were able to say that this one has finally and recently made it through approval. So I guess doesn't seem really vote worthy, but for purposes of relaying to the applicant, perhaps I'd ask for, do we have a motion to acknowledge that the board how would I put it?
Do you want me to
acknowledge that Mass DEP has issued a modified provisional use approval for the STAR 9.0 system?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none? Oh,
Hang on, Daryl. Hang on, I'm not as fast as tonight, I guess. I think and I'm just not sure because we haven't had the opportunity in an open meeting to discuss this with the applicant. But our question would be then under that provisional use, again, I think the thing that I'm the most concerned about, particularly in the case of Farm Road, is it's very clear that the owner has certain obligations, and if the current 32 unit townhouses, individual cottage style houses are actually built, who will be the owner during the course of that time? Because that is important for our regulatory enforcement. And then the second part is, in fact, what is that backup system and where is it going to be placed? And we need to find an opportunity that we can communicate that. So.
yes, I agree with that. So really, this is merely an acknowledgement that we are in agreement that Mass DEP has approved the STAR 9.0. All those other things we do need to discuss because they're not trivial. And again, it might take the form of recommendations to the ZBA because we will not be the decision maker. But if the system did not perform, that would be quite a cost to the future owners.
Exactly. And it has to be, at least in my reading of the provisional use, it has to be determined prior to the installation of the system what that would be, the replacement. All right, I'm sorry.
Right, I don't know how they've implemented that elsewhere and how often that's happened.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to replace it with something, and there are lots of other IA technologies. I mean, that could be used as an alternative to this one to begin with, that have the general use approval. So I'm not, and I think one can choose from those. Because it would need to be another IA technology because of the additional loading per acre that using a nitrogen reducing technology buys them.
That is correct, Daryl. They would need to consider another IA technology because it's all being based on the fact of the nitrogen reduction request based on the limited acreage they're using. If they had the correct amount of acreage, they wouldn't have that same concern. But in this case, they would need to consider a different technology that's approved for nitrogen reduction. That is correct.
All right, Matt, we had a motion, a second, and then a discussion, just to put us back on track.
I think that it's my turn to vote. So I will say aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Rebecca?
You're on mute, Rebecca.
I asked you, and when I was on mute, so you didn't hear me, if you would mind repeating the motion.
Sure. So the motion is to acknowledge, or the motion is to affirm that the board agrees that the septic tech star 9.0 system has a provisional approval from Mass DEP.
Thank you. Sorry.
And that's it. We are just acknowledging that we understand it is approved.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Okay. So that's an aye from you, Rebecca?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
All right.
I'll stop sharing.
I will start sharing. Right. Sorry, Zoom is being annoying. I can't get to that. There we go. All right. So then I think the next item is the status of the administrator search.
Okay, so Julie and I have been, on behalf of the board, reviewing incoming applications for the position and working closely with HR, especially Jeremy Marset and Diane Moores on that. And Julie, would you be interested in providing a very brief overview of where we're at?
Sure.
Okay.
We've received.
And we're not going to share, oh, sorry, I'm going to back up. We're not going to share a lot of detailed information because this wasn't posted earlier. This is one of the ones that wasn't. But we do want to update you on where things are at and lay out what might happen next. Okay, sorry, Julie.
That's okay. So we've received, I think is it now up to 11? It's at least 10. At a certain point, I've kind of lost the number.
I know, I stopped counting, but.
And so a majority of those came within roughly the first 2 weeks of it being posted. We've kind of had a few trickle in over the last week or two. There were 2 candidates that particularly stood out as having experience and skill sets that we saw as beneficial to the department as it moves forward. So we called both of them in for an interview, and we had fantastic impressions of both candidates. They had very different skills that they were bringing, and we could see how they benefit the board in both ways. And one is on the younger side, early in her career, and has recently completed an MPH, has a certification as a registered sanitarian, about to be certified as a soil evaluator, is a certified food inspector, and led, is it inspector? I am trying to remember, Daryl, because that's not something we usually get into. And so, but also has administrative experience as well. And so within that, we saw a great opportunity for resilience within the department as kind of workloads shift and ebb and flow. Having that kind of skill set would be really advantageous to help, since we're really a staff of 3 people, to be able to help navigate those changes. The other candidate was very experienced in municipal governments, had experience doing all of the things in which Ellen has done in terms of preparing budgets, doing emergency preparedness, doing meeting minutes, agendas, helping people as they are working their permit through the system. I'm trying to remember all the things that she.
Legal research too was another.
Exactly. So, and with deed restrictions as well. I mean, she really, she could walk in and sit in Ellen's seat and probably would know exactly what was going on, which was fantastic. And so we were very impressed with both candidates, and we were particularly grateful that we were able to receive so many, and particularly these 2 extremely qualified candidates within just a couple of weeks of posting. Relief is the word. Rebecca, did you? We can't hear you.
Please. Thank you.
For all of the work that you've been doing. I'm interested in seeing the job description, and I think that it's really great that you guys have done all this work, but I also feel like it's out of order, and maybe we should have discussed it and then said, yes, that'd be great if you guys do this work on behalf of the board, because I don't know, I just feel like
We did actually do that.
what was that a meeting that I missed?
It might have been, yeah, but we definitely authorized the two of them to work on this because we didn't think we could do it all in open meetings in an appropriate timeline.
I don't recall that, but I did miss one meeting in March when I was out at a meeting. So it's possible that I missed it.
We posted this, I don't remember the exact date, but it was early March. Was when we worked with an HR consultant to draft the job description based on Ellen's job description that had been updated in the fall. And it was also at that time, it must have been that first meeting that we authorized.
That's exactly what the meeting was. But I mean, oh, that's good. That's good. So because we did talk about increase, sort of changing her job description to represent the amount of work she actually was doing, which I think that's good.
Yes, and we benefited from having revised the job description fairly recently, updated. It was very close to, the prior version was very close to what the most recent version was, but still very helpful in the process. And I'll just say, the other candidates, there were a lot of interesting candidates, but they didn't always align with the challenges that we have in Sherborn specifically. Some people were very oriented towards providing nursing service within the community, and we don't, again, septic and well is our main activities that we work on. Or people who were experts in emergency response and preparedness. And again, that is also important for us, but it's not a major component of what we do, or at least we hope it never becomes a major component of what we do. And things like that, where interesting people, but maybe more suited to urban environments or other kind of settings than Sherborn.
Well, that's fantastic that there's been a good response with some very qualified candidates. So that's good.
Yes, we were quite fortunate to.
Because of some of the challenges, I'm not familiar with this sort of process, which is why I was asking a couple questions. So what is the desired procedure that you would like to follow? Would you like to collect a certain number of applications before you bring them back to us, or would we be reviewing them in a private meeting, or how would that work?
So the next step that we're looking at is making an offer to one of the candidates and see where that goes in terms of discussions, negotiations, whatever it is. And then they respond positively, then we would come back to the board for ratification of anything that we've discussed with them. And if we're making, and if they're signing up. But we don't know where that's going to go yet.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I don't know. We allowed to look over the resumes of some of the applicants, or give feedback to you directly, Daryl, or
probably. We have a meeting with Jeremy tomorrow morning, so we'll just check on, what the protocols are for that. I don't see why we couldn't share resumes, but we should ask him to be sure. And then it should be held confidentially. That's extremely important in this process.
Of course.
For people who have other jobs currently, right? So we're trying to be respectful of that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thanks. I'd be interested if it's possible.
Okay.
Diana, go ahead. You're on mute.
I am, get my hand up and mute myself. So, so the next step, Daryl, it sounds like you and Julie will be talking to Jeremy about the candidates and selecting one as your preferred number one choice.
Yes.
Okay, great.
We have a
Right.
meeting tomorrow morning.
That sounds exciting.
It is.
Yeah. This is great. This moved quicker than I thought it would, so it's really good.
Knock on wood, Matt.
We were pretty
Yeah.
excited.
Well, it seems you're having luck lately, Julie, with making offers for things. So
I don't know. I don't want to test my luck too many times. Just barely.
all right.
Okay. Well, we'll be updating you soon. Let me ask this. There's a possibility that we might need to have another meeting now before May, which is our next meeting.
Mm.
So are people, I'll reach out and let you know, and we'll see what we can do, but hopefully you'd be amenable to that if we really need to at least get a quorum of the board together to approve whatever comes out of the next steps.
I think if we need a limited meeting for that, I could potentially do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason we don't have a meeting is school vacation week, which is tough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The school vacation week is out for, all right, we'll do our best. All right.
It should be a brief meeting, though, I would hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we're done with that topic. So back to you, Matt.
Related to that topic, minutes for 318. I think where we left it, we were going to ask if we could get some help, and I don't know if, and I sort of realized it's
did.
after that.
I asked the shared services, and it turns out they don't have anyone in-house who does minutes, so they hire somebody to come in and do the minutes. So we could potentially hire that person. So I have to say it's been a little busy with the Board of Health lately, so I haven't gotten to that. Anybody interested in trying to get contacting person? I could find out who they are and get their information. They do the minutes for a bunch of different groups in Needham. Or we just have very short meeting minutes that some volunteers on the board want to do.
I am in favor of seeing if we can hire somebody. I just got to be honest. Like,
I agree with this.
Yeah,
last time I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll spend some time doing it. And now, like, weeks have gone by and my email inbox just gets longer every day.
Yes.
So what about IA doing minutes?
Well, I don't know if I've sent out the IA interpretation of one of our meetings. And if you hadn't been at the meeting, the grammar is beautiful and it sounds all okay. But at one point it had merged two completely different discussions into one. It just is so inaccurate. So a sentence here and there will be okay, but the overall just is unreliable. So it could be used as a starting point. That's an option, as can the transcript. But we had in the past, when we had the volunteers who were helping out during COVID with minutes, they were using the transcript. This is while Ellen was out or something, and they were copying from the transcript, and it just gets very humorous in parts, how it interprets what people are saying.
It was
And,
completely nonsensical is another way to say it.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, it was not something we could approve, Diana. I too had high hopes for AI. AI, I'm sorry.
AI, thank you.
I'm sorry, wrong way. But yeah, I was shocked at what a terrible job it did.
Oh,
I
that's
Yeah,
had a
so
chance.
tricky, and it would, like when we talk over each other, sorry, I do that a bunch because I'm just lost in my own thoughts, but even if we have a break, sometimes it doesn't assign comments to the right person. Not that that should matter all the time, but sometimes it does. Certainly
Yeah,
in
and I-
voting and other things.
And I had a chance to review the AI too, and I agree. It just was all over the place. If I need to go, I had to do this just recently for 110, 112 North Main Street. I had to go back and check where the board was with that, and I just went to the YouTube video to review it. It's at least available to review until we get minutes, but I really did appreciate the minutes that Ellen provided over the years. They are we were using them today to reference some information. So hopefully we'll get back to having those type of minutes. But right at the present time, at least we have the YouTube videos of these meetings. Thank you.
And I can see where so now we'll have 3 meetings with this meeting tonight that need minutes. So I will, when this meeting ends, I will send an email asking for the name of the person. Jeremy indicated that there should be funding available for that without too much trouble. We'll just set up a contract of some sort with the person as a part-time casual employee and ask them to prepare something. We'll give them a template from that Ellen has left behind and maybe examples of other minutes, and also enable the caveat to say, and for further details, refer to the YouTube video at, and include a link to it or something in the minutes. And we'll just have to shortcut on these.
We've only had 2 variance hearings, I think, in the time that Ellen's been gone. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That sounds right,
I
yeah.
think that, yeah.
That's where we want to make sure that the details are, I mean, we want to make sure all of the details are correct, but that's where somebody might get tripped up if they're not familiar with our regulations. So yeah, having Ellen's previous notes as a guideline, I think would help tremendously for someone. And then just the agenda, they'll be able to fill in from there.
Yeah, true. Okay.
Okay. So we have 2, I think the last thing is the 2 disposal works installer permit renewals for Rodenheiser and Robert St. Clements. Mark, any concerns with either of these?
No, in the past there was an issue, but again, that's an issue that was a private matter between the homeowner and one of the people that's requesting a permit. I would hope that someday gets resolved, but that doesn't involve us, so I would recommend approval of both installers permits as requested and noted on agenda item of the businesses 1 and 2.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the disposal works installer permits for Rodenheiser Excavating and Robert St. Clements, both conditional to pre-construction conference?
So
Yes.
moved. Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Matt Beaver's aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Well, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
All right, I think that covers it, other than agenda items for the May 1st meeting.
We do have a variance hearing for 32 Wildwood for May 1st.
Almost done. Click above to get started.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so we have 1 variance hearing. I'm sure we will discuss Farm Road and Washington Street homes.
Yes.
We will probably have an update on the administrator search if we
Let me
don't
just
before
check
then.
I think there's a ZBA meeting on the 24th of April. Or I assume it's going to be Farm Road and Washington. just for anyone who's interested. 7 p.m. It's a Wednesday night. It's the night after town meeting, which means it's also, oh, is that
Yeah,
vacation?
Daryl, I do have that as correct on the Wednesday, April 24th for ZBA and Board of Health Farm Road Homes. But I also believe there might have been one other one, but I'm not for sure. But I have that one in my calendar. That is correct.
Okay. All right, maybe I'll ask Jean to post that as a Board of Health meeting as well,
Smart.
just in case we have a quorum show up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff, do you have some, Dad?
I have two things to add when you were at the end of the meeting. The first was I wanted special credit for not claiming the select board excels at manure management. I could have helped out in your earlier discussion. But before we get to that, I wanted to actually thank you, Matt, for all the service that you've given to the Board of Health and to the town and all the hours you dedicated. So I don't know if I'll be on the May 1st meeting, so I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate it. It's been a good time. And sure, I'm leaving lots of work left to do, and I'm sure everybody here is excited to do it.
Yeah, I think they are. Well, the new agents are helping. And I'll talk to you later offline. I'm actually joining Mass General in about 3 weeks. So
Okay. Yeah, let's chat because it seems I'm also joining Mass General. We're all joining each
oh,
other.
are you? Are,
Well,
oh,
no,
no,
but,
yeah.
but
Oh,
we're all
because
going to
the
be one big
comment.
happy
Yeah, no,
family. So
this is a crazy story, but I'll do it offline.
sounds
Thanks.
good. All right. So I guess the other agenda item for the first is my last meeting. But does anyone have anything else to add for that agenda?
Matt, just that, Daryl, if I'm not mistaken, I had another ZBA meeting noted for the next night on April 25th for Washington Street Homes. So I don't know if that's accurate, but I had Farm Road
Oh,
Homes for
okay.
April 24th and Washington Street Homes for April 25th. But again, I'm going off the calendar I'm looking at. I'm not for sure if that's accurate or not, but there could be
Okay.
2 nights in a row.
All right, I'll have to check. Yeah, I thought there was another one, but I guess I didn't write it down. So
I didn't write that down either. I thought the conflict on the 25th is it's the town meeting. If we get too late on the 23rd, we then go over to the 25th. I have the 24th for sure, but I agree. I think there's something else that I missed to write down.
Yeah, and that could be inaccurate. They may have changed that. I might have written it down prior, so we can check that on the town's calendar.
okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. Matt Beaver's aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Becca Honeywell, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Bye, guys.
night.